of the CAF Confederations Cup, won't his name be coming up for Blasters, or because he was at Dreams, so no one was looking at him?
But Philemon Baf was at Dreams before.
So you see, the conversation has been that even if a good player is at Dreams, because he plays for Dreams FC, whenever they get a call up, they say it's because of.
Oh, but when we saw Abdulaziz Issa, everybody knew his talent.
But even with that one, people were still saying it was because of Kent.
I think the only problem is that for him, you know, in African football, in Ghanaian football, there's always a problem of conflict of interest. So in order to dispel such notions, you should always give us players who their talent is never in doubt. Fatai Shaku played at Dreams for a few months before leaving to Sporting Lisbon. Everybody could tell his quality once his left foot was on the ball. For Abdulaziz Issa, we saw him, even his goals even being nominated for goal of that tournament, the CAF Confederations Cup tournament as well. And so I think if such players were brought for national team call-ups, I don't think it would have been in doubt. But a player like Philemon Bafo, who with the greatest respect to him, even that FC team at the time was quite problematic. So I think that's where things are happening. And he didn't help himself. Some of the players who earlier came from Dreams, who were pushed into the national team, were not players who deserved the national team based on their performance at the time. And so I think that's where the problem lies. But for Solomon, I just think sometimes certain players do what matters and leave the pitch. So Solomon comes, he does his primary duty as a goalkeeper to keep the post, and he leaves quietly. He doesn't have people to be propagating and pushing his works and be mentioning his name in the places that matter. So his PR is quite down. I think that's something he needs to work on. If he does that with Solomon's numbers, if he gets a few influences on his side, Solomon can even get a looking at the Blasters.
So far, he has 3 clean sheets, I think, in 4 games or something.
And honestly, when you are looking at his disposition, I think, if you are being honest, he could dispose a few people in the Blasters order.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you look, I'm looking at them without mentioning anybody's names. If you take off Asari, I should think that he should.
But why can't he eliminate Asari? Because they all play in the same team. It's only one of them that will. You see, or you're already saying that Asari is true to the World Cup, regardless of everything.
You know the mistake we made at the last World Cup. We had the #1 goalkeeper. Then just going to the World Cup, we switched things. Then Ziggy came. So if you realize, Ziggy's internship was at the AFCON, at the World Cup. He was an intern at the World Cup. He was now exactly. So it was very clear that Ziggy. So if you watch the first game against Portugal, he made certain mistakes. By the Korea game, he had rectified them. Then by the Yoga game, he had done better. But even there, you could clearly see there were still things. And then subsequently, he was getting better. So if we have a goalkeeper who is, for almost a year now, he has been in the post and heading to the World Cup, I don't think we should make the same mistake we made in 2022. So we should stick with him for now. Maybe after the World Cup, then we can start afresh again and then find out who we want our #1 to be.
All right, but let's move on to Asante Kotoko. They drew with Mediama Sporting Club 2-2. They've not been consistent like how their fans will like them to be. Mediama too have not been that consistent. By virtue of that, Mediama, even with a draw, are currently on top of the Ghana Premier League because the Ghana Stars themselves lost their game. For Asante Kotoko, their head coach over the midweek, we saw their head coach lamenting about
if you play here the way you play at other games, you will not be laughed.
So that was carrying easy too, but they lost. That means in 2 games they've not been able to win. What do you think is wrong with them? Because I think that they have the players to even beat.
I just think there was no way they were going to beat Mediama. Even on the build-up, I said, but I even thought that Mediama would win the match, and I think I was vindicated because Mediama took a 2-0 lead, and the Kotoko had to fight back to get a draw. So even kudos to Kotoko for fighting back to get it. I think it was in the dying embers of the game where Kotoko came back. So I think kudos to them, in fact, for coming back into the game. But I didn't think there was any way they were going to win this game. And if you look at, it's been coming. Even the game they played against Adriana Stars, that game too, Adriana led, and they had to fight back to get the equalizer. And even at the point, Adriana could have even won the game again. A few things didn't go their way. I think they even had a penalty. They should have gotten a whole lot of things. So I think inconsistency is the problem with with Coach
Karim
Zito. So I think it's something he needs to work on the team cohesion, and then make sure that they now try to score first instead of conceding first and then trying to fight back into the. I think that's the problem now. They are conceding first, and then for the rest of the game they need to fight back and score. I think when you score first, then means that you have to just consolidate and then you protect your victory. I think that's what they are struggling with at the moment.
All right, so from the Ghana Premier League, let's move on to the English Premier League, and we had a lot of interesting things happening over the weekend. Now let's have the highlights of the game between Chelsea and Arsenal. Then we can have the highlights between Manchester City and Newcastle. So it's a back-to-back highlights for now. Chelsea versus Arsenal, Manchester City versus Leeds United. Manchester City versus Leeds United.
Brought down beautifully by Eza. And look at the space here for Bukayo Saka.
It was a decent long throw there, but this first touch is good. Saka just pulls out nice and wide. It's a great first touch. It's slightly offside maybe.
Esteval. Twisting, turning, releasing Joao Pedro. And Esteval's there to follow up and skies that one well over the crossbar.